All right, guys, welcome back to the Talk Shop podcast. I feel like this is a bigger segment of all of them. We're doing individual segments at this show, but I have a podcast where it's really long form. I feel like I want you two on there just based on your backgrounds and the little conversations we've had. We have Kent Swig here, president of Swig Equities. Big company, I had no idea. They own Brown Harris Stevens, all these cool companies. And this guy is charismatic as it gets. He walked over, saw a sign, he's like, I gotta sue that guy, I own that building.
No, I didn't say sue. Hug the guy.
And that's my cousin, so don't worry, he's not suing him. And then we have Thomas LaSalvia, senior economist at Moody's International. So this guy is a genius.
Moody's Analytics.
Moody's Analytics.
No worries.
But you guys are international, right?
We are very international, so you got that.
Awesome. So guys, please tell us a little bit about what you do. Let's start with you, Kent.
What do? I work in real estate mostly. I've got a real estate firm called Swig Equities, which is a real estate development ownership company. I have a family company called Swig Company, which does real estate as well. We used to own the Fairmont Hotels, but now divested. We've got about 11 million square feet of office space around the country.
11 million?
Yeah. And then I've got some operating companies, Brown Harris Stevens and Halstead Property. Those manage about 500 buildings, 35,000 units in New York City. We do roughly about $9 billion of sales of residential apartments, and makes us 22% of the marketplace. I've got a company, Helmsley Spear, which is a commercial third-party brokerage company, the oldest company, real estate company operating in the United States.
Really?
And then I also have a crypto or a digital asset company, which is called Dignity Gold, which has just filed with the SEC a couple years ago and is out there trading. We have 3 billion tokens at about $2 a piece, which has a market value of $6 billion.
Nice. It's a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
Let's go over to you, Thomas.
Yes, so Moody's Analytics, particularly the CRE operating unit. Commercial real estate is our focus where I am, and we try to help help Kent make better decisions, essentially. So we provide data, research within the commercial real estate industry. My main role is head of narrative analytics. I'm a glorified storyteller, but my background is an economist. I have my doctorate from Binghamton University and have always been in love with cities, have always been in love with understanding why people live where they live and why businesses locate where they locate.
Binghamton, you said. So pre-being an analyst, you were a party animal. Pre-being an economist.
I've been known to party.
He's blushing already. He's got us both.
I'm impressed. Anytime you can have the word doctor in front of your name, it's a home run.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you know what? I'd like to hear both of your insight on the office market. You probably get this all the time. I'm not a city guy, so this is speaking on fresh ears. Both of your insight, and I want to see how it correlates.
Okay, well, I don't want to be repetitive. We just got off a panel, so I'll say the same thing. I think there's a couple big problems with the office market today. One of them is that people aren't going back to work enough right now. So the problem is that roughly in the United States, we have about 50% utilization rate where people are going back into the office. Only 50% of the people are back there. And that's not a sustainable proposition for the United States as a functioning economy.
But now as an owner, are you buying more?
Well, as an owner, buying more carefully, but I'll tell you why. The second big problem is, and I'll tell you, so if you look at San Francisco, they have a 29% utilization rate, and it's hurting the city. There's nobody shopping, there's nobody buying, and increased crime. So that's one of the big problems in there. Second big problem, and this is about buying, is that we've got a Federal Reserve right now that is trying to reduce inflation rate. And I think they're picking 3 indicators to try to push that they can't affect like they used to. One is housing, which they're affecting, and they brought down the transaction volume and pricing in the United States for 12 consecutive months. They've done that. But 2, they're trying to raise unemployment which I don't think they can do because we don't have enough people working, available in this country to work. So the way to combat that is not with raising interest rates, but it's opening up our doors for immigration, which they don't have control over, so they're using the wrong tool for the cause they're trying to do. And the second is that they're trying to reduce the cost of goods and services. They can't do that because the bulk of those goods and services come from China, and China was shut down for 3 consecutive years. So they can't, by increasing interest rates, reduce consumer spending enough to really make a big difference. So they're pushing the needle in the wrong direction, and what they're doing ultimately is going to destroy the commercial real estate market, because as debt comes due over the next 12 months, the interest rate costs, the interest costs are going to double, triple, if not quadruple, which is going to create massive foreclosures and a banking problem that we've not seen really in this country since the 1970s. So is it a good time to buy? If, as we wake up 10 years from now or 3 years from now and start getting things better, yes, it could be a good thing to buy, but there's no debt available. So it's all an equity buy, which is very expensive and a little difficult.
The office market is evolving as how we work evolves. I agree, for our sake of our cities, we need to get back to the office. It's very unlikely that we will be back 5 days a week. But we weren't back 5 days a week, or we weren't there 5 days a week, even prior to the pandemic. Tons of work travel, time off, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not looking for 100% occupancy rate, physical occupancy rate, right? 50% is too low. San Francisco at 30% or whatever it is, much too low. But if we can get to 70, 75%, I think that will really help to grease the wheels on the office market when it comes to commercial real estate transactions. In addition, though, we do need to have a bit more clarity when it comes to where interest rates are ultimately going to normalize, where that equilibrium will be, right? And then we'll also have to have a discussion on obsolescence. Are we really entering a stage where pre-1980s office properties with poor natural light and maybe older HVAC are obsolete? And what will it take to bring those up to modern standards to maybe help to incentivize getting some of those workers back, right? So there are certainly a variety of layers to what's happening in office. We know transaction markets are anemic right now when it comes to office, but our take overall is that this is a bump, a rather large bump, but it's a bump for office. We are not bearish on the long term of office. I actually anticipate that economic studies which come out of this period of remote work will illustrate a large loss of productivity and innovation, as well as a lot of issues associated with company culture. And as those studies come out, or as the reality of that sets in for a lot of companies, we're already seeing some of this, more and more workers will go back. And I do not think the office is dead. This is not apocalyptic. This is probably more what retail went through in the last 10 to 20 years, which is certain assets we're going to have to look closely at, but office as a whole will be okay.
You know what, I will say you're 100% correct, and I do hope that study comes out sooner rather than later. But we were roughly at about 80% utilization rate prior to COVID. At 50%, it's not good, and it doesn't put enough people on the streets. If you get more people on the streets, crime is reduced, restaurant traffic goes up, business traffic goes up, all of those things. And corporate culture is a very important dynamic. You can't create corporate culture with siloed people outside of the office. And so therefore you've said it really eloquently and perfectly said.
I mean, if he doesn't say it, who's going to, right? This guy knows better than anyone.
But he says it, but it's accurate too.
And he says it well. Now, Thomas, speaking to two investors that are active in the field, what would you suggest to us, assuming you were flipping the roles, right? If you were in our shoes, based on what you know, what would you suggest we look into, learn about, or actively invest in right now?
My disclaimer is I cannot give advice on investments. Now, with that said,
good question.
There will be opportunities out there, right? And I think that is what we'll look for moving forward is we know there's a good amount of capital ready to be deployed, dry powder as we call it in the industry. And there's also going to be a bit of distress here and there. So the way we're thinking about it is opportunities will arise. The key will be to just do your due diligence, right? To look at that neighborhood, look at that particular location, the potential tenants, the potential upgrades that are necessary, and you may be able to find an opportunity in there, a diamond in the rough.
It's not the answer I want, Thomas.
Years.
Give me an asset class. Give me something that...
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to say he's 100% right in this, but here's the basic gist. There's no debt available in the United States right now that's somewhat affordable. So when you do that, it drives the asset prices down. So regardless of residential or commercial or retail right now, if you have all equity, you're going to have some very good opportunities. The problem is that if you have any component of debt that's needed, it's not available. And that's a very destructive thing. So as that happens, values are going to decline. And the question is, and he's got all the numbers and information, it's not apocalyptic. We are going to stay as a tribal group of humans working together, eating together and shopping together, right? So the uses of real estate will still be there. The question is, how can you afford to buy them and sustain them while you're in a very, very expensive debt market? So if you have all cash, this is going to be in a very, very good place to do. A specific answer to you is right now the Class A space in the commercial market is outperforming every single thing because the potential obsolescence, as Tom said, is a problem. So that may be taking office buildings and converting to residential. It may be taking large retail and I think breaking it up into component parts. When back in the 80s and 90s, we were taking small retail and putting into big box users.
I see.
So I think those are the kind of opportunities, is re-energizing what exists today. Tom is going to say something.
Yeah,
So
no,
basically
I'm
you guys...
really excited to say something here.
All right,
because
good.
Ken, you brought something up I think really important about the retail side of things. One of the most intriguing models that I'm seeing right now is the repurposing / renovating of older Class B and C malls into mixed-use communities.